G'day guys and gal. Pretty much every opponent the Imperium faces is an absolute nightmare to deal with. The Tyranids are a horrific swarm of chitin, teeth and claw, the Orcs will rip you limb from limb, the Dark Elder will murder fuck you to death, so will Slaanesh, even the Tau suck to fight as they'll kill you from half a planet away. But none even come close to the horror of fighting against the Deathguard and the forces of Nurgle. No other Chaos or Xeno faction even holds a candle compared against going up to these guys in the shit time department, and I don't just mean that figuratively. But why are the Deathguard and their god so horrible to deal with, especially when you compare them to the other Chaos factions, who are also horrific in their own way? Before we get started, I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. Having a fully unkempt bush is gross and unhygienic. Women literally rank manscaping as one of their main compatibility concerns, but slicing up your gonads with an electric shaver or giving ourselves ingrown hairs with a razor sucks more than the fall of Cadia. So today I've partnered with Manscaped to give you the solution, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra in white hot, because aesthetics matter. This device is the GOAT in body and ball shaving. Its skin safe technology means you can get rid of even the hardest to reach hair without fear of turning your family jewels into sashimi. It's waterproof so you can use it in the shower, has 60 minutes of battery life so you barely need to charge it, and has a light so you can see what you're doing. It's an incredible piece of kit and a must-have for any man who cares about their hygiene. To add to this, Manscaped also has many other products to help in your men's grooming journey. Some of my favorites include the Weed Whacker 2.0 to easily get rid of nose hairs, the Chairman Pro or the Beard Hedger for a clean, customizable face shave. I also really rate Manscaped's deodorant. It has a distinct manly smell. So to get 15% off the entire range, use the link below or code Majorkill15. Cheers to Majorkill for sponsoring this video. Today we'll go over why the Deathguard are by far the worst faction to fight against. Let's get into it. So when you are discussing how unfun it is to go up against a particular foe, there are a number of things to consider. Only one of them is the actual fight itself. The other factors include the duration of the fights, the lingering effects it has on both your mind, body, spirit, and very terrain, the consequences of losing against them, and the consequences of beating them. What I mean by that is, let's say you're fighting the Tau. The Tau can kill you just as easily as the Deathguard can, but death via the Tau is usually pretty clean overall. Your body isn't mutilated, you can be taken prisoner and ransomed, and if they take your world, odds are the quality of life and environment on it improves. Tau also mostly abide by some sort of Geneva Convention. If you beat them, they aren't going to just upload some sort of nanovirus into your drinking water that makes your dick explode and then gives you AIDS as a bit of form of spite and last revenge. Soldiers who fight in the Damocles Gulf generally seem well adjusted, high on morale, and ready to deploy soon after each engagement, which is a reflection on how nice the Tau are to fight. Now moving into some of the other scarier Xenos, they still aren't nearly as bad. Necrons are horrifying, with Caiaphas Cain straight up stating that out of all the enemies he has faced, and he has faced literally all of them bar the Deathguard it seems, the Necrons were by far the most fucked. However, once again, if you're hit by a Necron Gauss Blaster or attacked by a Destroyer, it's a very quick, clean death. They aren't going to then rape your soul or puppet your corpse. Actually, they might do that second part, but it's not very common. Even Orcs, who are scary as, are a pure, straightforward enemy. They love to fight and will charge at you head on. They do not have sneaky contagions or engage in attrition warfare. If you survive a fight with an Orc, you have survived and you can be proud. Even the Dark Elder, who are really not a fun time to go up against, will attack you and either kill you or capture you, then vanish. They will not mutilate the world or have a lasting impact. They just come, cause a ruckus, and leave. Basically, in almost all cases of fighting Xenos, if you win, you've won, and then you can move on. If you lose, yeah, you're probably dead, but your world lives on mostly in the same form and can be retaken cleanly later on. The wars are also pretty short-lived, either because the enemy is doing hit and run or thinks attrition warfare is weird and gay, so they'll just throw their full force at you off the bat. The exception to this is the Tyranids, who are widely considered to be the most horrific Xeno to fight against. They want to consume you, then consume your world, leaving it as a barren dead rock, and even if you repel them, they would have likely modified your atmosphere and environment enough that things will never return to normal. Not to mention all the Tyranids that go to ground or create gene stealers that then plague the planet for centuries after a failed invasion. There are some pretty horrific scenes involving Tyranids. If you want to give yourself nightmares, read the excerpt from The Last Hunt when an Imperial Augur station is eaten by a Tyranid bioship. It's grim as fuck, but for all their horror, the Tyranids are a physical threat and they are direct. The depths of their sneakiness and insidiousness are quite impressive. The Lictors and Gene Stealers prove that, but it's generally manageable and comes down to solid detective work and a lot of flamers to sort it out. Another reason why I'm quickly going over fighting all the Xeno factions is to give more context. All of them suck in their own way, but it gets a lot worse. Let's now look at going up against the Chaos factions. Fighting Khorne and the World Eaters is more or less just going up against the Orcs with a bit of extra spice. Khorne is direct, doesn't like manipulation, doesn't like sorcery, he just wants to throw his warriors against your warriors until someone wins. Often he doesn't even care who that winner is. The only danger from fighting Khorne, from beyond the obvious physical threat of gigantic weapons wielded by walking hemorrhoids on enough trend to make Gold's Gym look like the birthplace of natural lifters, is that the blood rage can be contagious and you can be corrupted or become a berserker when fighting Khornite forces. But overall, beyond the basic corruption risks that come with all Chaos factions, fighting Khorne is direct and you don't need to be paranoid about unseen threats. When the Khornite army is defeated, the planet is more or less completely scourged of their existence and next to no trace remains. Slaanesh and Tzeentch definitely play a lot more on the mental and spiritual side of things, but once again, if you beat them, that's it, they are gone. Your world just doesn't turn to crystal permanently or become one big vagina. Yeah, sure, they'll have a lot more sneaky cultist shit, and fending off their main force will usually just be the first step to actually purifying the world, but it's more or less a case of finding the right string to pull until their whole plot is unraveled. 9 out of 10 times when you banish their main sorcerer, cultist, demon, or artifact, the corruption dries up faster than a female streamer who does a meet and greet with her fans. Also, it's important to remember that attrition warfare fucking sucks ass, and all 3 of these Chaos factions loathe attrition warfare. So let's now compare all of that to fighting Nurgle and the Deathguard. The first and most obvious shit part about going up against the smelly boys is all the disease that is constantly floating about, infecting you, the planet, and even your soul. Now, Nurgle is extremely clever when it comes to his plagues and diseases. Sure, he could just invent a super AIDS virus that has a super high infection rate and makes you die within 10 minutes of being infected, and yes, that disease probably exists, but it's a terrible jack of all trades disease. It would burn itself out fast, would invoke extremely strict quarantine measures, and wouldn't actually be that much more effective than a blade or bolt gun. No, Nurgle is smarter than that. Some of his diseases are designed purely to subtly weaken you, so it goes unnoticed and lowers an army's overall efficacy by a small but notable amount. Some diseases are designed to kill, some are designed to be curable but only after a lot of effort, so they are resource intensive. Some are designed to infect and then naturally die out, but leave the person as an ineffective soldier or worker who is now a burden on the Imperium. Some diseases are just distractions, as Nurgle needs to constantly make and change his diseases so that they cannot be vaccinated against or a cure be designed. Now, you'd think that all of Nurgle's diseases and plagues would be warp based, as he is of the warp. However, the Deathguard also cook up their own physical diseases based on science and standard modern day laws of viruses and bacteria. Thus, when you fight the Deathguard or Nurgle, you're being blasted by a mix of warp based and reality based diseases, infecting your mind, body, and spirit. If it was all just warp disease, then a blank Sister of Silence or priest could simply just be near you and you'd probably be cured or immune. If it was just physical, then doctors and scientists would be all that is required. But the fact that you can be infected with both at the same time adds even more complexity to the treatment. So to deal with this, the Imperial soldiers fighting against the Deathguard have to wear the most uncomfortable, bulky sealed suits, sweating their fucking asses off and getting extremely claustrophobic. The duration of wars against the Deathguard and their demonic allies are also incredibly drawn out. The Deathguard enjoy their slow, inexorable advance, so you're stuck dealing with your full body sealed suit, breathing corrupted air for months on end. Not to mention the way Nurgle corrupts worlds is horrific. Flies manifest everywhere, clogging your mask and blocking your vision. The worlds become swampy and humid. All the water becomes dirty and undrinkable. It becomes a literal shithole hell, where comfort ceases to exist and there is only suffering. Nurgle then whispers into your ear as you feel despair. He says, "Embrace me," and all the suffering would vanish forever. Only bliss and a life free of pain would await you. So many do actually fall. If you're killed in battle against the Deathguard, they will reanimate your corpse as a zombie, with it even being implied that a part of your consciousness remains intact that could only watch in horror as you shamble into your old allies and either rip them apart or are ripped apart in turn. At least when Khorne claims your skull, you get to join a dope as hell skull throne, but nothing is more humiliating than being turned into a zombie. Now, although the Deathguard and Nurgle-like demons aren't exactly stealthy, the Plague Father can be incredibly insidious. All of Chaos has bullshit hacks to some degree, but Nurgle honestly takes it too far. Here is a good example. A number of incredibly brave, loyal guardsmen were fighting against the Deathguard during the Plague Wars, which was when the forces of Mortarion invaded Ultramar. They fought in those horrible conditions, but maintained their loyalty and morale. A small group of the guardsmen even killed a Deathguard legionary, and then they were transferred to a hospital world to recover from their physical injuries, sickness, and mental trauma. Now, Ultramar had gone full autismo with their quarantine laws. They turned a stunning verdant world into a hospital world, as the natural beauty of it helped with the soldiers' PTSD. They also had incredibly strict quarantines. Wounded or sick soldiers would be separated based on injury and sickness, scanned, and then further split apart. Some would end up needing exorcisms, some would just need some antibiotics. It was an incredibly thorough and well executed system. Everyone was tested dozens of times for both physical and spiritual ailments. All of this was done on ships in orbit, and only when you were truly cleared and cured of your ailments were you allowed to arrive on the world to rest and recover. Gilliman literally thought of and did everything to prevent any form of corruption or outbreak, yet it happened anyway. How it happened was that those noble, brave guardsmen all left their beds one night and gathered together by a beautiful river. Some were in a trance, others were lucid but a bit confused. Some were completely coherent and were just there apparently by coincidence. All of them had been tested, cured, and cleared. Yet suddenly, on a hospital world with no Nurgle-like cults or corruption, they all begun horrifically turning into plague bearers, getting ripped apart from the inside out, their eyeballs melting in their sockets as their bodies deformed. All of them had been touched by Nurgle in some way, that was true, but in some pretty bullshit ways. The POV of the character who witnesses this and also turns into a plague bearer literally just got bit by a fly on a battlefield, and that was that. His infection was treated and he was declared cured, but apparently that wasn't enough. Others simply had scratches or normal battlefield wounds. All were loyal, no one wanted to be corrupted, but Nurgle did it anyway, and then he also crash lands a bunch of zombified star whales on the planet who disgorge a huge demonic army, and boom, there you have it. Space zombie whales, a few fly bites, and you've managed to get a massive Nurglite army onto a pure hospital world with the strictest quarantine system in the galaxy. Sounds so fun to deal with, yay. When you defeat a Nurglite force, yeah sure, a lot of the corruption dries up, but not all of it. The Nurglite plants that grew often create their own corruption sources and need to be manually burnt out. Sure, the atmosphere clears up, but not entirely, because as I've said, not all the pollution and contagions that Nurgle brings is warp-based. Some planets just end up getting exterminatus as the corruption has run too deep. When the Space Wolves' home system of Fenris was mass invaded by Chaos, the only world that the Wolves were unable to reclaim and purge was Midgardia, which just so happened to be the world the demons of Nurgle attacked. It was too far gone, so it got exterminatus instead. Not just a surface level exterminatus either, it was blown up by a super bomb unique to the Space Force called Morkai's Tooth, causing the planet to shatter to its very core. Even those shards on the planet are still infused with Nurgle-like corruption, so when you fight against the Deathguard and forces of Nurgle, you will be in constant pain and discomfort the entire time due to the conditions and the disease. The fight will drag out and be full-on attrition for months. If you win, there's a good chance you will still have to battle a disease or the after effects of one for the rest of your life. Also, Nurgle is one of the most mentally damaging of all Chaos Gods to fight, as he feeds on and into your suffering and despair, so you'll definitely have some sort of permanent mental issues. The world you fight on will be permanently altered, either corrupted and needing to be exterminatus, or cleansed by fire, thus becoming barren. Even if you die cleanly, if that's even possible, you'll be brought back as a zombie. As a final example to drive this all home, a Tyranid fleet once invaded Nurglite world, killed its defenders, converted to Tyranid slurry and ate it, only for the Tyranids to then get infected and die horribly, so not even the cosmic horror from beyond the stars is safe. So with all the above in mind, the Deathguard and their grandfather are by far the worst enemy to face in all of 40k, not just for the Imperium, but for all factions. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then head over to Natty Plus to check out my range of science-backed supplements that actually work. Hit the subscribe button and hit the real subscribe button for more smelly content. Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.